Hi, I'm Charmaine, and welcome to the Love of Self podcast, where we delve into the emotional aspects of finding love for self. Today's topic is emotional poverty. My concept of emotional poverty is about lack of emotional support, and the lack of emotional support that creates a lack of development of emotional growth in certain areas or in all areas at times. And I consider it to be a process of the mind that locks up your heart. I believe it to be a process of coping without knowing how to deal, or coping without knowing how to feel. It can also be a process of, in my opinion, of not understanding ourselves. It can be a process of our mind's escape because we don't know how to feel our emotions, or the underdevelopment of processing how we feel and then incorporating those feelings towards the actions that we take. With poverty meaning lack of resources or just not having what you need. And I feel a lot of people may not have had the support that we needed to establish what our emotions mean for us, as well as the inability to feel seen or heard or accepted through our emotions. The constant need to suppress it in order to cope with ourselves, cope with the world we live in, the environments, the communities that we grow up in. It's not always safe to be emotionally vulnerable. It's not always okay with everyone to express yourself. So then what do you do with it when you don't feel okay? What do you do with those feelings? What happens when you suppress it and you have to constantly do it over and over again? What happens with our mentality? Our actions? What happens with the way we communicate, or simply the way we deal with ourselves, as well as others? I wonder how many of us are really dealing with emotional poverty. How many of us are dealing with unnecessary turmoil and heartache because we don't know how to release the tension within us. We may not know how to cope with our anxieties, or the only way we know how to cope is act out in some other way, find an escape or an addiction, because our feelings have been impoverished into underdevelopment. And what do I then do with that? If I don't have the support I need, if I can't afford a therapist, if I don't have a friend to confide in, no one around can provide the support that's needed. That's a hard concept to come to grasps with. How does my mentality then develop? How does my behavior develop? How do I reconcile with my sorrow, my past, my pain, my guilt? I find it important to, at the very least, if we don't have any support with the people around us, to do our best to support ourselves. And at the very least, begin to recognize what our feelings are, acknowledge them, and take every measure we can to deal. I believe the first step is becoming aware, as well as beginning to know who you are inside, and possibly finding peace through forgiveness, finding ways to release the shame. But step one is finding the parts within you that you didn't see before. And then maybe we can get somewhere. I'd like to thank you for taking these few moments to listen to what I have to say. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. I'd like to ask you, are there times where you feel like there's no support? There's no outlet? Are there times where it's hard to deal or express what's needed? If you decided to express yourself today with the emotions that you were never able really to feel comfortably, if there are emotions that are too hard, what would you say about it? What would you say today? What would you tell yourself? What would you write down? What would you just simply say out loud to help yourself cope? What emotional advancements do you think you could provide yourself? If you're ever so inclined, please comment or email theloveofselfpodcast@gmail.com. Please remember, I am not a therapist. Also, I have a book, Love Yourself, a book of poetry and spiritual writings, available now on bookbaby.com. Purchase link is in the bio. I wish you all peace, love, and joy, always. Until next time.